Hey everybody, and welcome to my in5 series where I cover a topic in about 5 minutes. Machine Lab writes in on my video just talking about kind of my new studio setup and just showing kind of what I have on the desk right now, and asked why do I have the S1000 sampler. Totally good question. He counted 4 samplers. I probably have more like 12 or so. I don't know. I like sampling. I like the sound of it. I like really pushing them to the extreme to kind of see what you get for sound. So why the S1000 sampler? Well, um, at the time I had the S950 and I'd gotten it when people were throwing these things in the dumpster. Basically, they just didn't see the value in it. The S950 I had at the time had, I think, 750 kilobytes of memory, and I ended up spending the money to get it upgraded to the 1.5 megabytes. Maybe gets you a minute, maybe two worth of sampling time, and then you're still struggling and fighting with the disk saving system to actually save your samples to the disk. So can be a real challenge to work with the S950. And I just happened to see that the S1000 was available locally and decided I'd pick it up to just mess around with it. And it happened to come with 10 megabytes of memory. It was misconfigured, so it could only use two. So, doing some jumper changes, I was able to expose and show that it had the available memory. And though at the time, I used it a lot. And later on, people were looking for those cards, especially the 8 megabyte cards. So I sold off the two memory cards that were in it and ended up investing to get a 32 megabyte card just to have more storage space. But the S1000, just having, by virtue of having more memory, you're able to store a lot more samples in it and have a lot more sample time. But yeah, I mean, there's computers out there. I've been through Contact, which, yes, I understand it is a sample player, but I always kind of struggled with it it plays samples, but it's not actually able to sample things in. I haven't kept up with it, so maybe it does now, but early 2000s, it definitely just was a sample library player. And I don't know, I just liked having samplers. Like you get the input, you can record stuff in, and you can get the sound and audio to mess around with. So, with all that said, let me just kind of show you a few things here about just kind of show off what the sounds are for how it works a little bit differently. So let's switch over. And right now, I'm just going to play for you a pad because, like, I like to actually take pads and see how they stretch as they evolve over time by playing into another device. So I'm just going to play this. So this is just I'm going to record this into the S950, and I'll actually take that recording and put it into the S1000 to play. But just something that's kind of it's got some depth to it. It's a little bassy, but it's also got like kind of a metallic quality, and it's just changing pitches over time. So I'm going to let that ring out, and let's switch cameras over to here. So I've got the S950, and this is just one example of many. But again, this is a 12-bit sampler, and a thing to know about it is it has 8 voices, and when you pitch it up or down for the voice, it's got each chip. It's got an individual chip for each voice, and as you're pitching the samples up or down, it's actually changing the clock speed that those chips are running at. So it's not doing any math like you would in modern systems. It is literally just changing how quickly or slowly those chips are running. So if I go here and just play a really low note, I mean, this is just pitching that note down. It's got kind of it's a little bit more metallic, but it's really kind of bringing in some of those notes and tones. So what I want to do is I'm going to play it at a higher note. And you kind of hear it. It's carrying that metallic sound as it's changing it. And we can go even higher. Now, I mean, you notice it's getting shorter. I could set it up to loop and do some other fun stuff, but effectively, it is imparting some of that 12-bit characteristic. It's not able to record all of the subtlety, especially of the content, the high-end content, and it's kind of changing it. Now, what I also like to do, and I don't do this all the time, but on the S950, if you go save the audio and load it up onto the S1000 will actually convert it from a 12-bit sample to a 16-bit sample, and it does actually do kind of a interesting effect where you'll get more clarity, I guess is the best way I'll put it. So I'm just going to switch over to the S1000. I'm just going to play the exact same notes just so you can hear it. So here we've got the S1000 and I've loaded it up. It's the exact sample that we've recorded on the S950. So we're going to play this. And one thing you might notice if you got headphones, you actually kind of hear some of the artifacts. There's like just a subtle bit of noise that's not being filtered out. I suspect that the S950 it has like kind of it does have a low pass filter, but it's also doing some filtering I think on the DACs as it's sending the audio through the output. Now if we go play the other two notes on the higher end, got a little pop there, but one thing that just I hear in this is it sounds a little bit cleaner and a little bit fuller. And I would say similar for that note being played higher as well. So I can't tell you what actually does or does not sound better. It's going to depend on your own ear, or it's to me, it's just part of like the process. I just record things around, stretch them out, up, down, and if I end up finding something that I like the sound of, I'll stick with it and kind of go run with it. But beyond that, um, yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't know that I would necessarily say anybody has to get any particular sampler. I'd say just if you got use what you've got, play around with it, and just really try and see where you can hit the edges, abuse things, and what kind of sounds you get out of it that you actually like. To me, that's the important part. Anyway, hope that answers your question, Machine Lab. Everybody else, thanks for stopping by. Keep making music, keep having fun. Remember, if it sounds good, it is good. And drop any questions or comments into the bottom section. Happy to do my best to try and answer you guys. Thanks, everybody, and peace.